Hello. Hello there. I wanted to do something before this stream starts, and while we're waiting for a few more people. Hello, hello. Starfleet Boy is here. Sohail is here. Hi, Sohail. Robbie is here too. Hi there. Hope every one of you had a good day today. And before we go any further, I'm not sure if this will work, and I hope I'm not gonna get flagged by YouTube. But there we go. Just a bit of a getting into the mood from the first episode. Just love the tune. Okay. I think that's enough. I don't want to get flagged. All right. Well, hi, hello, 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 everyone. All of you who joined me today for Hi there, Rob and Fathery. Hello there. Okay, just excuse me for a second. I have to close the door because the dog outside is barking, and I'm not sure if it's audible or not. But um, yeah, just 1 second. Yeah, this is behind the scene of Trekkerprise. There you go. And the dog is still barking. All right. So hi everyone. Today, as I been promoting this for a while, I'm going to talk about DS9 season one, revisiting season one. I started rewatching the show, I think a month ago or so, because I've been rewatching all of these shows in a regular basis, but I'm watching regular episodes as well here and there. Uh, and Oh yes, so the yeah, I have to get them more organized, but that was Dennis McCarthy. So hell, that was Dennis McCarthy. Actually, the title for it, and I'm listening it from Spotify. Um, Enterprise Departs is from the very first episode. Beautiful soundtrack. We're gonna talk about the soundtrack as well. Hi there, Braxton. Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. So yes, so as I mentioned, I've been revisiting episodes from the shows from different shows randomly, based on how you feel, based on how I fancy watching an episode or so. I even got to the point when today I was actually revisiting some of Discovery, which I found very exciting, because I'm not really the biggest fan of Discovery myself. I like the show, but we talked about this in multiple podcasts, and I think my reviews as well kind of um, kind of reflected the opinion that I was not really a big fan of Discovery, but I'm here to talk about DS9 today. And revisiting episodes of the original series, I think Voyager was the first show that I rewatched about 3 or 4 times. TNG, I think I rewatched it twice, and this for Deep Space Nine, this is the second proper rewatch, and it's a joy. It's a joy rewatching this show. I remember when I first encountered DS9 because I was waiting for TNG for so long after I seen Voyager. I think the first couple of seasons, and DS9 and TS9 got into the air, but then funny enough, I was expecting Next Generation because in the TV guide, Star Trek was advertised as, oh, Next Generation is coming this weekend for your local TV channel, and I was like, oh, I was so hyped, like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch, and everything was. But apparently, some of the TV channels, they every Star Trek is just a Star Trek show, so they don't really care what they advertised. So got DS9 instead of Next Generation, and I remember the first reaction, like, why do I have to watch this stupid space station? How wrong I was, wasn't I? um, yeah, only took a couple of minutes once I started watching the episode. I was like, oh my god, I just fell in love with this, and ever since, all these years, DS9 is just a fantastic show, and I think even we're going to focus on season one this time. Hi, hi there. Thank you for joining. Koi Clud. I hope I pronounced the tag correctly. So So yeah, so I'm trying to focus on this occasion of season one. I just completed watching season one, and geez, I think the best first season ever. I'm a big Voyager fan secretly. I mean, I'm saying secretly because I always promote myself. I like all the tracks in at the same level. But to be honest with you, I I had a soft spot for Voyager because that was my first Star Trek. So some most of you, and I know Sohail and well, Sohail yourself, I know that you're a big TNG fan because you grew up with TNG. I know Rob, who's been in the chat with us today, he's a big Voyager guy as well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Fathery, but I think you're either TNG or the original series. I'm not sure which one was your first, but for me, it was Voyager, and it will always have a soft spot in my heart. Um, a little bit, tiny bit higher than all the other shows, but I like all the other Berman era shows and the Roddenberry era show, of course. Again, not going to go into the current era of Star Trek because that probably will be in the next live stream about not dissing anything, but just discussing like the differences and what personally I think. And with this. And with this season one revisit, it's gonna be my personal opinion. So I haven't been forced by anyone, or I haven't been influenced by anyone to choose this or choose that. I did a bit of a ranking, and in my case, I don't do worst episodes. I do best episodes, I do less exciting episodes, and I do honorable mentions. And again, because none of them are perfect, of course, but some of them has actually a better story arc, a better overall character development and acting, and the story is much better. The music, just a whole lot of talk about. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly go over my choices for best, less exciting, and honorable mention episodes, and I'm going to keep an eye on the live chat as well because I know quite a few of you here, and thank you very much for engaging and everything. It's really overwhelming and exciting as well for me. So I'm going to have a quick look here and there. So I'm going to put this in front of me. So best episodes, which I think are the best episodes from season one. I gotta put the Emissary. I love the episode because obviously it's the first introduction to DS9. We got Picard and the Next Generation influence at the beginning, coming in, with Miles O'Brien joining the crew, and just setting up the whole story for the whole show, which it makes it special. I mean, I think DS9 has the pilot. Okay, so in terms of pilots, I think DS9 and Voyager is the two pilot that I think the best in Star Trek, in my opinion. I know opinions are differ in many cases. Some people worship the cage, totally fine, or Battle of the Binaries. But for me, Emissary is in the same level as Caretaker. It both of the episodes sets up a really nice tone and a really nice beginning anchor point for all the shows. And Emissary specifically, it sets up a tone in the show already that that it's going to be Star Trek, but it's going to be something else. You have this familiarity when you see the Enterprise coming in, and you see Captain Picard, and you see this man who fought the Borg, fought Locutus, in the Battle of Worf 359. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, so it's just a brilliant episode. And of course, going into the next episode, Babel. Uh, I know it could be cheesy because of the mumbo jumbo that they come up with as a bit of language issue because of the virus, but the way how I see it, especially in this climate that we are living in, Babel is a perfect um, example as well. Again, for this, you know, the whole station is in lockdown. Some countries in lockdown. Some people don't really want to care about that, and then just, like the captain wants to jettison with his ship and go because his cargo will be destroyed or damaged. So all of these things comes down to Babel being a beautiful episode, and having to and seeing, mainly the biggest part is that seeing the hierarchy, and seeing the um, seeing all of these people working together, and less and less, because every one of them goes affected by the virus, and their language skills are going to get messed up and everything. So it is an interesting balance, and having Quark and Odo saving the day at the end of the day, it was just absolutely beautiful to witness. And of course Kira as well, because she got affected later on in the episode. But that always, the Odo and Quark balance in this episode, just absolutely hilarious, that I never expected to be anywhere afterwards this episode. But then I think it sets up a really nice tone, and kind of the playground between the two characters as well. So for me, specifically for this reason, Babel is a fantastic episode. And of course QLS has to come as a strong episode as well in my library, which I must say, I love, because obviously we're gonna get back Q, and I just love John Delancey. He's a fantastic actor with this character, just done a lot of good things, and having him on DS9, and having Cisco punching him again, setting up a different tone, that hey, I'm not Picard, I'm not Jean-Luc, it's not the TNG, forget about it. Even though they try to, it feels like with this episode, it feels like that the writers, they try to sell DS9 to you, that it's Star Trek, but you don't. After a couple of episodes, you realize that hey, you don't have to sell this to me with Q and Wash, even though. Even though they were really nice to see, and I think the episode itself was a hilariously and a very well made episode. Um, it's just amazing. And you don't have to sell Star Trek to us from that point of, but like at least for me, you don't have to sell it, because I understand what you're trying to tell me with the show itself. And then next one, Dex. Now, best episode, and because Dex is a very strong character in DS9, and Terry Farrell, bless her, she's a fantastic actress. I happened to meet her along with many of you, I'm sure, in the chat, um, in multiple conventions. She's absolutely amazing, very friendly, and Dex is a character I used to associate myself with her character, and you know, because of the character itself, she's fantastic, and just being always on the top, being humorous, being serious at the same time. It's just that beautiful balance that this character has, with all the multiple personalities. Sometimes I even think that Dex could be a perfect Doctor Who in a Star Trek universe, because the symbiont itself could be the one who regenerates all the time in the body, and we don't even know how long the symbionts actually can live. And the symbiont itself is like 300 years old, or a bit more, 320 something. And at the first episode, when we got to know Dex, so and in this episode, we got to know that she's very loyal, and just trying to live up to the, not just to the expectation, but for the standards of the Trill Society, and what does it mean to be a host, a really good host. And it's just absolutely, it's a fantastic episode. Odo gets so much exposure as well, and we got to see his side of getting the job done, getting there, getting his skills being used in a different scenario. Of course, we get to see a bit of an intricate relation as well between Cisco and Dex. So this episode is just absolutely beautiful, and I think the Tundro-san. Um, I think he will appear later on. I think in Voyager as well, in season 6 or season 7. Um, and even Nina Tundro, the lady who played Nina Tundro, Anina Tundro, she will come back in Enterprise at one point. She will be the old Vulcan ambassador from the episode Fallen Hero. So it's a good connection between the two episodes. So Dex, the episode itself is absolutely beautiful. It's something that, these are the episodes, in the best episodes, that I can rewatch anytime, because they are just freaking good. Next one in line, Nagus, the Nagus. Now, I have a soft spot for Ferengis. Ferengis are amazing. I love Quark, Brom, Nog, and Zack. Zack is the most hilarious Ferengi of all time, I must say. I can't recall any moment when I was like, "Oh my God, what is this troll doing there?" But he's amazing, and having to see the intricate layers of the Ferengi society, getting to know about the rules of acquisition, and getting to see this dynamic between these people. It's just absolutely hilarious. And the Nagus, because we get more introduction into the Ferengi society, just a fantastic episode to see and always rewatch because it's just hilarious. Sets up a really good ground for the society itself. And for the rest of the episode, where we got to see the Ferengis are always a bit of a comic relief in most of the episodes. I mean, just think about Quark, and every time when he and Odo has some conversation, discussion, and clashes between the two characters, they're just absolutely wonderful. um Battle lines comes again for my best episode lines. um I know that's a bit of a darker episode, because we have Kaiopaka first visiting DS9 and going into the Gamma Quadrant, and then crash landing in this planet who you can't really die, but she does, and she cannot leave the planet, and she basically needs to be left behind. The story itself is just absolutely heartbreaking in a sense, because Kaiopaka was the kind of person, from the very first episode as well. We got to do the introduction for the Bajoran religious order through Kaiopaka, and the whole emissary thing, and the celestial temple and all the religion that never really been part of Star Trek before. But in DS9 we got a good introduction to that side of the Star Trek universe as well. And it's because it's a federation. It's not a federation world. I mean, it's not yet a federation world. Of course they're gonna have some religious stuff to deal with, and I think it's really interesting. Although I do have to say, some of the Bajoran themed episodes made it made it my less exciting episodes, because just somehow the first season, in terms of episodes with Bajor related, freedom fighters and stuff, it just didn't really excite me as much. But again, that's just my personal opinion. So Battle Lines, definitely, because they had to leave behind Kaiopaka and go back, and seeing the struggle with Kira and all the others. It was just um, it was just yeah, it made it a really good episode, morally and in many levels. Progress is the other one that comes to mind, and even though I said at the beginning that Bajoran themed episodes are not really my favorites, but that one is a really good one, for many reasons. First, we have the kind of last man standing, the grounded person who doesn't want to live because that's his home, and but the others cannot come around to the fact that, hey, like, okay, let's find another solution. But no, this is my home, and I'm gonna leave it. And I think this theme came up quite a few movies in the past. If you remember Up, if you I'm pretty sure most of you watched Up, from all eight of you who's watching at the moment. um Carl Fredricksen, who the one who's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna leave my house," and at the end he has to leave, but he leaves with his house. But the theme itself is a recurring theme in Up. Batteries not included. I'm not sure if any of you remember. It's a really old 80s movie with Jessica Tandy. Fantastic movie. So the theme itself is a recurring theme, in terms of having multiple. Personally speaking, seeing this in different movies, seeing this in different ways, in a sense. So it's a really nice it's a really nice setup again for setting up. It's a really nice setup to set up. It's a really nice setup for Kira's character as well, because she in this case, in this episode, she kind of became a bit of a gentle soul, more caring, and try to understand and try to feel for that person, but also trying to fulfill his duties for her duties. And it's just it's a very delicate and intricate episode that I really enjoyed watching. And then next comes The Forsaken. Now, The Forsaken is a brilliant episode because it gives us the first glimpse of how Odo is developing as a person, and all thanks to one of my all-time favorite character. And so, Hill, if you're still here, you know who exactly I'm talking about. That's of Laxana Troy. Now, Major Barrett, I always really excited when I see her in Star Trek. As Laxana Troy, she was absolutely amazing, and as a person, even though I have not had a chance to meet her before she passed away, but all of the interviews that I seen with her, all the stories that I heard from other fans during the years, and she was just a fantastic person who I deeply missed the fact that I wasn't able to meet. So it's this episode made it really special. It's also again connecting DS9 to TNG to just like a almost like a last reminder, like, hey, we are in Star Trek. This is Star Trek. It's not something else that you shouldn't watch. It's still Star Trek. So you just hang along and tag along and watch it with us. And again, at the point when you don't really need to get reminded, because by the time when Laxana comes in, you kind of got to the Quark Odo banter. You got the Dex intricate background story. You got a fair amount of Cisco, Kira, and even a little bit of Bashir. Which Bashir, I have to talk about him as well at one point, because yeah, he needs some development in the first season. As not much happened in the first season in terms of his side. um, Dramatis Personae, also a really good episode, and kind of reminded me of the TNG episode. And so if you're still here, you probably remember the episode title, when free alien entity, like they got into Picard, no, not Picard, Data's Troy's and O'Brien's head, and they kept hostages in the um, kept hostages in Temp Forward, and they tried to reason with everyone, and they wanted to leave. It kind of reminded me of the same situation, vaguely, because obviously in this case it was like more of like a virus that was going on within the chief of staff. And it was interesting to see this episode, and again, at the end, not having them understanding what they've been going through, was just an interestingly, and it was a really good episode. Wonder what happened with the clock that Cisco built. And again, wonder what happened with Kayopaka, because if she's still there, she's probably still like, who knows what happened in that planet. So first episode, good episodes, and there's two more that I want to mention. That's Duet, which I watched, I think early this week. No, hang on a second. Last week, previous week, I watched Duet, and gosh, that episode is just really good. Having the Cardassian coming to the station, and his personality, and how he was not the person who he described himself, and then he was actually the person. So he basically claims himself to be a real person, and then people think like, no, actually I'm not the real person. I'm someone else who everyone hates. And then at the beginning, it's a very intricate and interesting story on its own, which honestly, I think that's one of the best episodes. Well, it's in my best episodes, but I think regardless of my list, it's one of the best episodes of the show itself, of the first season itself, and just heartbreaking as well by the end, when Kira actually got to the point that, hey, you didn't do anything, you were just a clerk, and you went through a horrible situation as well. The first time when we kind of got to see um, the other side, that, hey, the Cardassians are, you know portrayed as oppressors, and yes, Maritza, there you go, thank you, Rob. So the to see this understanding from the side of from the Bajor people, but from Kira mainly, seeing that, hey, like, I've been suffering, but I never imagined that all other Cardassians can feel the same way how I did. And I think this episode is just beautiful in terms of the context of this episode, and the conversation, the dialogues between these two episode, between these two person. And I think Star Trek in its best as well in many ways, because you don't in this episode, aside from him getting killed in the last episode, and I hope I didn't spoil this episode for everyone with this little fact. I assume that every one of you seen it already. Um, so I think this really proves that you don't have to have violence in an episode of Star Trek. You don't have to have fast moving ships or major conflicts. A dialogue makes such an amazing story. And with these, I mean, this is something that I think definitely missing from today's Star Trek. These little episodes that you have just a dialogue between two characters, and having this deeper understanding of what happened with these people, what happened with the other side, and understanding that, hey, not every bad guy is bad guy. But again, so that this is, I think, Far More is my favorite episode. And the last episode, that my best episode, it made it to my best episode list, is definitely Hands of the Prophets. Now, I have watched it this morning, which is a bit risky, taking that I advertised this live stream a week ago. But hey, I caught up with a couple of other things. But Hands of the Prophets, it's it's a masterpiece, I must say. And kind of the episode kind of reminds me of the first season of Voyager, because it really brings up the differences between Starfleet, the Federation ideals, and the Bajor way of living, and how the Bajor people, how the Bajorans, they got liberated from the Cardassians, and they try to do everything on their own. Excuse me. And seeing this, religion comes into place, like that base foundation of their society comes into place, and they're trying um to force, like, especially Veda Quinn trying to force her ideas of Keiko, of the Federation people, like saying that, like, hey, you shouldn't be teaching whatever you're teaching, you should teach what we believe in, which is one point of the argument. The other point of the argument is that you, in a multicultural society, you're part of it now, and you should adapt a little bit more. And having this having this balance as well between all the Bajor stuff. They didn't really come up to work at one point, and they started, just turning against the Federation, the Starfleet personnel. It kind of reminded me of Voyager a lot, especially in this episode. It reminded me of the early episodes of Voyager, when you have when you have the Maquis and the Starfleet. They're still like trying to get used to each other, but they still have some clashes, some misunderstandings, some, like, okay, this is not how we do things, this is not how you do things. But you have a strong leader at the end of the day. Captain Janeway in Voyager was like, okay, this is my ship, and if you like it this way, you have to do it this way, because this is the way I'm gonna go with this. And essentially, you see these differences smooth and fade away by time in later seasons. And I'm really curious to see this change, this shift in season 2. And that really comes up in this episode. And by the end, you kind of realize as well, when Cisco and Kira goes up to the ops, saying that, okay, I'm going to help you with the report, and then, you're not the devil for me. It's just a beautiful set to further episodes, and it really reminds me of Voyager a lot. I kept thinking about Voyager, really the Maquis and the Federation Starfleet way of thinking by the end of this episode. And funny enough, Hands of the Prophet is the last episode of the season. It doesn't feel like a season ending, and I think with classic Berman era Trek, um, some of the seasons they didn't end up like, they had to be a big cliffhanger or something. And it's interesting to realize that, hey, and the next episode gonna be a totally new one. So it's not like you have to wait a whole year to find out what's going to happen in the next episode or in the next season, but you have a random episode in the next season coming up, which is interesting. In a sense, season one and season two might, because of there's no cliffhangers between the two seasons, it might gonna feel like a bit longer. So here you go. These are my top choices for best episodes from season one. And so just to recap: Emissary, Babel, QLS, Dax, The Nagus, Battle Lines, Progress, The Forsaken, Dramatis Personae, Duet, and Hands of the Prophets. And I'm really looking forward to see what is your choice of best episode. So please let me know in the comment section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter and let me know in the chat as well, because the chat is available and it's there. Less exciting episodes, and promise I'm not gonna spend too much time on less exciting episodes. Now again, less exciting episodes are not necessarily bad. It's just that I don't really choose rewatching them um, that much. And even though they have some good values and good moments in it, just don't really find the initiative to like sit down and watch an episode of DS9 with this particular episodes, and not much of them though, I have to say. Past prologue. Again, probably because of the Bajor person coming into the station and try to I don't know, explodes, try to make some problems, and it was just too like, oh, Bajor first. It's yeah, I don't know, but maybe I'm just listening to too many news these days, and I just didn't find it as appealing, and I didn't really find it appealing back then. But maybe 20 years in the line down, I was looking back to this episode and was like, now I understand. But at the moment, it counts as a less exciting episode for me. Captive Pursuit. I know, Rob. I seen that you like this episode, and again, nothing wrong with this episode. I I like it as well, but not as much as like I like Babel. Um, Captive Pursuit was an interesting episode, and I do really like the fact that O'Brien gets a bit more exposure in the episode. I think that was one of the first episodes that he got more exposure aside from the pilot. But it's something that I'm like, I'm Tusk. It's just the character himself getting, for me, a bit tiring by the end of the episode. Even though I can feel the kind of responsibility from O'Brien's side to get into this, to help for this creature, and you know even the main staff is like, you know what, don't run, don't rush into it, just let it go how it is, and we'll see what happens. The Passenger is another one that I don't really like to rewatch, and before I go any further, I do have to check which episode was that, because now I'm kind of passenger. I think I know it. Oh yeah. Now I know. Julian Bashir, The Passenger, Rayo Wantika. Um, it was not a bad episode. It reminded me of the Warlord from Voyager as well, when Cass got his mind boggling with a different entity, which. If you haven't watched Voyager, I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you. But there's an episode something like this in Voyager, which kind of reminded me of that as well. And um, the episode was good, but for me, the the acting of Julian Bashir, Alexander Siddig, wasn't as convincing in this episode that I would just because how awkward he was in this episode. I think for that same reason, I don't really feel comfortable rewatching this episode as many times. And I think that's the second reason, and that's the reason with the next episode that I'm going to mention, Vortex, which is again a good kind of origin explanation story for Odo, but again, I didn't like the secondary character, the guy who came back and started lying and then rescuing his daughter. I think every time when I think about season one of DS9, he comes up and he just like, I get goosebumps in my back. I was like, I don't want to watch that episode. I watched it this time and I still have the same feeling. I don't think I would rewatch that episode anytime soon. But again, that's just my personal opinion, and it might change in the future. Depends on, if I watch it in 20 years or something. And the last episode, as less exciting category, comes a Storyteller. Now, Storyteller was an interesting episode. Again, a bit of um, Bajor story in there, and having a bit of a feeble told in the episode. It was good, and actually we got to see the character. I forgot his name, but he was one of the main personnel in the episode, who later comes back as one of the temporary investigator for the trial and tribulations episode in I think the 30th anniversary for Star Trek, a DS9 TOS crossover in season 5. So I think that was one of the one of the episode that he comes back in, and he also, actually, I'm not sure how many of you played with Star Trek games before. Um, like before, because I know these days it's only like Star Trek Online, and it's like still trending because it's still ongoing and developed and everything. But Star Trek Armada, they had the Romulans. He actually voiced in that game a Romulan characters, which is absolutely fantastic. He's a really cool actor. So for that reason, he's it's a good episode. I really like the balance, the kind of starting of this awkward balance between Bashir and O'Brien, which later gets to the wonderful relationship that they have. But seeing this episode, being a bit of a feeble fairy tale, just I watch it once, but it's not something that I'm gonna go back that often myself. And we go to the honorable mentions, and again, honorable mentions means that they are not less exciting, they are not bad, they are good. What I might not watch them as often as best episodes, but I don't watch them as not often as the less exciting episodes. So something between the two, a fine line between the two. A Man Alone. It's an auto-specific episode when Ibudan got killed in Quark's holosuit, and he was investigating, but then he got bullied as well in the station. It's a very good episode for the sake of Odo, and I think we got to see quite a few good good traits of what as a changeling can do, and what he is getting accused by in this episode. So he kind of sets up an interesting tone for him as well, this episode at least, and by the end he got remedied, of course, but the trust between him and the other Starfleet officer, the security officer that he comes into the station, and then having them clash with Cisco as well. So it's a really interesting auto-focused episode. That honorable mention. It's one of the best again, but it's not none of those episodes that I would rewatch, like, I don't know, every week or something. Um, if wishes were horses, it's a fun episode. It's a fun episode. I found it somewhat annoying every now and then, but it was a fun episode to watch. I'm not sure what else to say about it, to be honest. It was just a fun episode to watch. There's a behind the scene fact on this episode, though, which makes it kind of special. Is Bugbuckeye. Bugbuckeye is a fictional character, fictional baseball player in this episode, and the alien Bugbuckeye gives the baseball to Captain Cisco, to Commander Cisco at that time, and that is the ball that actually sticks from. So before this episode, we didn't even see the ball sitting on his desk, but this was the episode that made the official ball sitting in his desk. So this is something that I read on Trekcore, and there's going to be a bit of a behind the scenes fact that I'm going to share with you guys, all from Trekcore from the first season. That, like, I'm so glad that website is out there. So yes, because of this fact, it's an honorable, really good episode. But again, it's not less exciting. It's just not as good to rewatch it every week. And finally, the moment that you're all waiting for, an honorable mention, and the last episode in season 1 that I had not mentioned, move along home. And I can see that being mentioned in the chat right now. Move along home. Now, move along home is a very interesting story, and despite the fact that we all make jokes about the episode itself because it was goofy, and not to mention Alma Rain. Which and again, an interesting fact about Alma Rain. Later on, when DS9 was in production, after this episode, they used Alma Rain as a word, as a word to describe something that didn't go well. So it was a running joke in the production team when something didn't go well or something they messed up with. They said like, "Oh, okay, this was an Alma Rain," and I did not know it till this day when I was preparing for this live stream. So it was interesting. It was interesting. It's a good episode. It's a funny episode. We got to see Quark begging, which is, worth Almarine for sure. So yeah, so these are kind of my ranking and quote unquote ranking, because I don't rank episodes myself. I said I don't have worst episodes category, and never have gonna have worst episodes category. I have best episodes, less exciting episodes, and honorable mention. Am I gonna put a chart up and just put it out in Twitter at one point? But yeah, the episodes themselves were good, and I think the season one itself, DS9, is a really strong season compared to other shows. And I know this is something that Sohail asked me on Twitter, because I did published a questionnaire on Twitter if anyone wants to, you know, have some questions. I'm going to check on the live chat in a minute. But yeah, so I do think that DS9 has a really strong start for the show, and has a really strong first season. So even if the first season would have been just like a one season, I would miss this show. If I'm seeing it for the first time, I would miss watching this show further on, because it has some really good stories, and more really good stories than not really good stories. I mean, based on my little list, I have 5 episodes that I would say less exciting out of 20, which is a really good number. um, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree that there's a lot of good damn episodes in DS9 season one. Voyager comes into second place again, just because it was my first Star Trek. But I don't remember that much really good episodes from Voyager season one, and even TNG. I must say, and I'm sorry, Sohail, I don't want to offend anyone with, watching TNG fans, but TNG season one is not as good as DS9 season one. I That's what I think personally. TOS is a different entity on its own, because obviously it's the original. That's how it started. Enterprise, compared to Enterprise, DS9 compared to Enterprise, I think um, it's still stronger than season one Enterprise, even though Enterprise had really good episodes as well. So I would say Enterprise, Voyager comes second place for me, and TNG comes third place for me in terms of the Bermanero tracks. So definitely DS9 has the best, for me at least. That's what I think, has the best first season of all time for me. Just to emphasize that, because again, everyone loves the shows for different reasons. But if I have to rank them, which I don't do often, DS9 comes first for sure. Season one, DS9 is the best in my opinion. I'm going to have a quick look on the live chat now, because uh, now I can understand why it's actually better to do multiple people on the live stream than just yourself, because you're talking, and you catch out of breath. So I'm going to quickly run through the chat here. So uh, let's see. Robbie said that I used to dislike DS9 as well. It grew on me eventually, and fantastic series for sure. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Fadery says, I like all Star Treks, but always love DS9 the most. Yeah, I totally cannot argue with that. It's a really good statement, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Rob says, I finished my DS9 rewatch a few weeks ago, and I forgot how great season one was. Some real gems there. Well, I'm glad that you think so, and I hope I did not bore you with my choices. But yeah, it's absolutely a fantastic season. As I mentioned just in my season summary in general, I think DS9 has the best first season of all Star Trek. Um, yeah, and I'm hashtag Team Voyager too. All right, Starfleet Boy. Yep, TNG is my favorite, but DS9 is an objectively the best completed series so far in Trek. No comment, but strongly agree. Um, TNG is brilliant too. I love it close to DS9. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rob. I mean, Captain Pursuit is freaking awesome, as you said. Oh, really? You managed to get Scott McDonald's autograph? That's awesome. Tusk. I am Tusk. I love the Wire in season one, or is it Duet? I think that's Duet. I think the Wire comes up in later seasons, if I recall. But yeah, that it was Duet. Duet is a brilliant episode. Right. Co-Cloud, did you like the Next Generation crossover in season one? Picard, Q, Wash, and O'Brien as season regulars to help the fans get used to the new spin-off. I think this is basically what I kind of touched on, that O'Brien coming from the Next Generation, a secondary character, and becoming a main character in the show. I think that really helped selling the show in a sense, because you had a familiar face. Um, Having Picard in the first episode also gives a little bit of boost, and I think this comes up in Voyager as well, because in Voyager we start from DS9. The ship leaves DS9, goes into the Badlands, but you see more in a chair. You see you have a nice dialogue with Quark, which again kind of reminds you that, like, hey, this is we are in Star Trek. Just don't forget it. We are starting from here, and then we venture out to something else. So it's a really interesting way to kick off a series. And I think having Picard and seeing the Enterprise D on the first episode was a really healthy thing to do. And I do think that it helped selling the show in a sense. Getting Q and Wash coming back in the season as well. Again, a bit of boost. Plus Laxana as well coming back in the first season. It was a bit of boost as well. Just like, like we bringing back some nice regular characters, which would you expect happening in these years as well. I mean, in Lower Decks, rumors that I could see from online that no, we're gonna have some returning characters as well, and then that's gonna sell the show a bit better, of course, because we are Trekkies. We once we got to love something, like if we grew up on TNG and you getting into the Voyager era, and but TNG had a crossover with DS9, and then you see that in Voyager, you're probably more likely to go into to the new show, and more likely to going to watch the episodes and catch up with that. If you like it later on or don't, that's totally your opinion. But I think that's definitely helps. But I do think that by the time when we go to Laxana, personally myself, I didn't have to get convinced to like I should watch this show because it's awesome, because it was awesome before Laxana showed up. So she just top the cake up with a cherry on top. That was it for me, at least. Again, oh, by the way, I'm not sure how long this will last. So, but I'll try to keep it down under 2 hours, because there's quite a few things to go through. I think an hour and a half probably. So still about 40-45 minutes. So we're halfway through now of our revisit for season one of DS9. Whew, okay. Karen Pinson, hi there. I'm not sure if you're still here, but hello there. DS9 is my favorite, but when it was an original, I rarely got to see it due to my work schedule. Yeah, I feel you. The show was so much more versatile than the other Trek shows. Armin's portrayal of Quark was awesome. I, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. That's just it's true. All right, I like the crossovers, but I think that Q's only DS9 episode wasn't great. Cisco Punch was though. Yeah, I agree with you, Rob. That Cisco Punch was. Some of the behind the scenes for that episode for QLess actually stated that that punch of of Q just basically even more emphasized it, that hey, you're watching Star Trek, but it's not that Star Trek that you came from TNG. So it was a really interesting way to even Cisco says that I'm not Picard, you know which was a really nice touch, saying that, like, hey, maybe you're from there, but I'm from here, so like respect each other, or just get out of my way. And that's the Cisco punch for you. The character of Jadzia changed so much in the 6 years of the show. She was so innocent in the first season with the Dex symbiont and a few new factor in her life. I agree with you. That's a very good observation. She really changed, and kind of I'm going to talk about that as well because I do have some traits in here in terms of the characters, but yeah, Jadzia is definitely a kind of character who grew a lot over the years, over the 6 years, and in season one we kind of got to know her. To At least that's how it felt for me. I kind of felt that she's a long unfolding character. She's not someone who will have to develop herself. You just have to unfold a bit more, if you know what I mean. All right, Tendo actress also played Data's mom. Very good. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, she been in three different Star Trek show. That's freaking awesome. All right, not a classic, but a lot better is included. Yeah, like yeah, like I do have to make a live stream of old movies. That is just a classic. Gosh, no, okay, not going to that way because I could talk about the movie as well. Um, the Bajoran episodes in season one were a little dull, but necessary in showing that the show was anchored in a specific solar system and not about the warp away at the end of each episode. Cold Cloud, I agree, and I wouldn't get rid of those episodes. I listened to a very good chat with Robert Hewitt Wolf on the Track Chat podcast with Track on the Tube. So if you haven't listened to that episode with him, it's a really good interview. And he talks about this briefly. That some of the episodes that they made, they're talking about this relation in um, DS9 and Discovery, because Discovery only has a season of 13 episodes, and DS9 had 20, 26 in some season aside from the first season. But if you don't have these episodes, you're missing out on a lot of things. And these dull episodes, as you marked it as well, really nicely. Sorry, they really needed to give a much richer season overall for the show, which I totally agree with. And it's good that they're coming back to these things because it enriches the show itself. That's something that I found, and I find kind of I'm missing from the new shows, that just like, oh, get the job done in a 10 episode, and you would have much more room to play around with different aspects of the show, different aspects of the season, um, different ideas, smaller stories, focusing on things, and at the end you can end up solving the big problem, saving the universe or what have you. But yeah, these little intricate episodes are missing, and in Picard there would have been a lot of opportunity to actually go into deeper episodes, to make an episode focusing on um, on Soji or on Datas. They could have done an episode on Mars. They could have done a lot of episodes in a lot of different cases in Picard, and even in Discovery in season one. They could have explored it a bit more, going into the relationship between Burnham and Giorgio, and seeing what happened with Detmer, like having this better cohesive matter that you're dealing with in the season. So that's why I think the more episodes work better, and with the not so serialized storytelling as what we've seen in season one works better for many reasons. Duet is my favorite episode of DS9. I cannot. I agree with you totally. All right, let's see. Introduced to Baraquin. Yep. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I can't pinpoint a specific episode where the show went from good to amazing, a slow progression, I suppose. I think I agree with that. It is definitely something that uh, evolves a lot, but it's getting from a good standpoint to a better. It's like the show is getting better every single episode. Immortal Tech Technique. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you very much for joining into the show, even if it was for briefly. I probably will. see some more in there as well. I'm just going to quickly scroll through here and try to see if there's anything I should or because I know a lot of you season one of Trek is still apart from Lower Decks maybe. Yeah. Again, we don't know yet. And you know what that means. Um, all right. Measure of Man is fantastic. Measure of Man is fantastic, but I think that was in season two of Next Generation. So I'll give a good reason for that. Elmerain, Cantu for. All right, not going to do that. Voyager had Phage, TNG had Datalore, and Bernoman has come before in their respective first season. True, very true. Hey, Botrek, I'm not sure if you're still here, but hello, welcome to the stream. Love to have you on, and good that you joined. Thank you very much for joining. Remastered DNG, DS9, and Voyager for Paramount Plus. Yeah, well, I hope so. I fingers crossed, and we'll campaign this as long as we can, as long as my breath lasts. Which, based on how much I'm talking in the last 55 minutes, it's a bit too much. We'll see how long it lasts. Move Along Home is a guilty pleasure. I agree with you on that. DS9 had very few bad episodes for seventh season. I agree with that totally. And yes, PJ in the house. All right. Okay, so let's see what do I have in my list, because there's a few things. Um, we talked about guest characters. Picard, Q, Wash, and Vaxana coming in. We got a good introduction to the Bajor religion and Vedek Win and Vedek Beret. Funny enough, we only got them in the last episode, but seeing that balance and getting that the sinister Vedek Win in the show, I genuinely thought that after that episode we're not gonna see her again, but there we go. We gonna see her a lot in later seasons. Um, what else? Dukat and Garak. Garak and Dukat. The two famous Cardassians that we got to see in this first season. There's no space for Damar yet, but he's gonna come along at one point as well. But Dukat being a not so much of a regular character, and even Garak, sorry. So Dukat, to be honest, with these two characters, I didn't think that they're gonna become as much of a big hit as they became a big hit in the later seasons. Um, Dukat seemed like an older military person who was like, I used to be in this station. I used to stay on the other side of the table. But it, like the logging and and then just trying to get together back home sort of type of personality, who I was surprised to see his evolution over the years, and having him coming back in multiple episodes. I think he's absolutely a beautiful character who evolves from the very first episode up till the very end, which we all know how he ends up. So, and even Garak as well. He ends up in a really beautiful way. From the very first, not the very first, but I think the second or third episode, when he pops in, surprising Bashir, and he comes back in the seasons coming forward, which it was so these two characters, they become so significant in later seasons that they weren't really emphasized on this two season, which I think in some level I understand that, because they are secondary characters that really enriches again the milieu of DS9. Of course, the first season, it's mainly just gonna be on getting the crew together, um, and forging that really nice alliance between the Federation fleet and the Starfleet crew members and the Bajor crew members. So I think that's totally normal, but it was a nice introduction, and you didn't really see them too much in this first season. However, for the whole show, they are awesome people. We got introduction to the Ferengi rules of acquisitions as well, which I must say, when I was a kid, I I tried getting them all from online. So I was like religiously going online and trying to find the rules of acquisition. Sometimes I was like, oh, writing them down, and even at school back then, I was like, the rules of acquisition states that blah blah blah, and like reciting them at school and stuff. And like it's crazy, but like whoever not done that? I mean, I sometimes I've been trying to impress, not impressed, but like sometimes someone wanted to bully me in school. I just started saying something in Klingon, even though I didn't remotely understood what I was saying, or what the Klingons were saying. I don't speak Klingon apart from Kapla, but yeah, these were fun things to get introduced to. And as I mentioned, in terms of my episode review summaries, the conflict between the Starfleet and the Bajor crew members, it was a really nice call out later on for Voyager, specifically the first season, having the Maquis and the Starfleet crew clashing and having some interesting balance between the two groups. So that was a really nice touch that I'm not sure if that was intentional, but for me that's how it felt watching especially the last episode, and over the season as well. Like how the how people in Bajor do things is different. How people in the Federation Starfleet do things. So molding and forging the crew together. It felt quite Voyager for me, to be honest. Oh my God, what do we have here? And it was great that they got Louise Fletcher in this series, such a good actor. I do agree. She's even though the character is sinister, and I didn't like that character from the very beginning, but I think that was the main intention. She played a fantastic role, selling the character um, who we didn't like. It was awesome. She made love to hate Kai Wynn. Oh yeah, Ducat. Yeah, Natalie Luca. Hi there. Hello there in the stream. Bashir is my favorite. Now, yeah, I'm going to talk about him in a second. And Kate MacArthur, hey there as well. Hello and welcome to the stream. Oh, so let's see. So a few observation from my side, and this is when I'm going to get into a bit more into the characters as well. So okay, so as I do mentioned that the first season is a really strong first season for a Star Trek show. DS9 far more like TNG or Voyager for me. Um, I wrote down that the tone is very unique and alien, but still optimistic and heartwarming, seeing the differences, different races working together. Again, I touched on, I'm not going to repeat myself. Uh, Great performances from the main cast, and that they do grow during the seasons. Now, this is when the interesting part comes in, because I do think that characters like Cisco, Dax, and Quark, even though we talk about um, character growth, I do think that these characters, they don't necessarily grow, they are unfolding their personality, themselves during the show, during the whole show itself, because you kind of feel that, hey, there's something more behind Dex, something more behind Quark, something more behind Cisco. And at least for me, that's how I feel about these characters. I always feel that, hey, there's something else, something more behind these characters, and it's interesting to see them, getting a bit more out of their personality over over the seasons, over the years. Not so much with, and again, this is just what I found. Not so much with Odo, Kira, and O'Brien, because they are the ones who grow over the years. They are the ones who they grow a lot. And again, I can put Bashir as well in here. But in terms of first season, they still need that development, that growth for them from their character to become a bit um, more of a unique characters. We know O'Brien a little bit more, excuse me, from TNG, snippets here and there. In DS9, I think by the end of the season he becomes a bit more of a complex person. He's seeing his fights with the computer, definitely something that he didn't have to deal with when he was on board Enterprise. But it was just, I think these are, and Odo as well, even though he had a set of characteristic, but with the new crew on board, and with the new alliance between the Federation and Bajor, um, and getting his way in around the station. It was really interesting to see how he was developing towards the end of the season. The one character who definitely needs, I mean, Nog and Jake is a kind of separate characters, so they always will improve, and of course Bashir is gonna improve as well. But Bashir was one of the character that I feel that he was lacking character improvements in the first season. He was there, but he wasn't really there, and he was a bit awkward at some point for me. So he wasn't really the kind of character like in terms of first season he had a best of his time because he he was a bit awkward to watch in some of the episodes, even though he had some surprising qualities that later we got to discover. But again, the episode when he was in the passenger and the Forsaken, when the passenger episode, totally I was like, okay, he needs to grow up because he's not giving his 100% as a character, and but in the Forsaken, in the episode Forsaken, he actually became much better. Dealing with the admirals, I think that was definitely something that he needed, even though we know what was the reason behind he had to deal with these admirals. So yeah, so I think definitely Ben Sisko and Dex and Quark, they are constantly unfolding characters. At least for me, that's how I feel about them. And Kira O'Brien and Odo, they are the ones who they develop over the season, and Bashir needs improving, but he will improve in the future seasons, so that's good. So I'm not saying that he's bad. It's just at this point he needs improvement a lot. Um, Visuals are great and believable. I loved seeing all the wormhole, all the effects and everything. The production team did a fantastic job with the first season. I think production quality wise, if I have to compare the three Berman era shows, TNG, DS9, and Voyager, I think DS9 definitely still in the first spot for me. Even the Voyager had some cool effects and cool call outs in in season one, but I think DS9 just topped everything off in many ways, and the music is phenomenal. The music is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just if you still hear from the very very first minute of this live stream, Dennis McCarthy was probably the most track focused composer he had a lot to do with Star Trek, and the music is absolutely fantastic in DS9. I often every day, and there's no day when I'm not listening to any Star Trek music or humming Star Trek music. So and Dennis McCarthy is mainly the reason to do that. So because he's just a fantastic composer. Um, all right, let's go into some really saucy behind the scenes details, and I already mentioned a few of them, but I'm gonna have a quick look in the chat to see what is happening in here. So, Kate McCarthy, if you were in charge of Discovery, what would be different? Oh, okay. Well, I don't really have to too much time to think about this question, but it's a really good question, though. I think a lot. I mean, in terms of episodes, I would definitely add at least 10 more for season one. If you're talking about season one, I would not go to the mirror universe. I would not have that much of a blood and experiments going on. Um, and the episodes were they would have a nice setup in the. I think I would have a nice setup in the first episode. I would not go into a war. But I don't see the point of having conflicts like massively universe wise, and because the Federation and Klingon war that and the conflict that they start in the first episode, I think personally I wouldn't need that. I would definitely scrap that whole story arc in a sense, focus on the first officer, if that's the main. I would not change that because I think that works, but I would expose more of her relationship with the crew members and getting some individual stories that I mentioned, even though these were sometimes in the old shows, they were considered as dull a little bit or just a filler for having the 26th episode. I would definitely expand the duration of a season, so not just the 10 or 13 episodes, would be 20, 23, and they have the budget to do that. So I mean, the ridiculous budget they have for one episode, they could do easily two out of that budget. But I'm not in charge, and I don't think I will be in charge in any Star Trek production. Um, maybe it's for the good. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we should do a live stream at one point on how would how the Star Trek universe would look like if we were in charge. What would we do? How would we do? But again, there's no wrong and bad in the Star Trek universe. There's something that one likes better, one something that one doesn't like better. And I yeah, first thing I would definitely hire Rick Berman and Brandon Braga to do, because Brandon Braga did fantastic with the Orville. So I would do something like the Orville, but again, a bit more. All right, so I think that answers your question probably. So, but that's an interesting topic to talk about, though. That's definitely an interesting topic to talk about. All right, the sets would be more Enterprise NX-01 esque, and the show would be more optimistic and a bit more thoughtful in character. Agree, agree. I would set it after Nemesis. Very good point. Not just me, but I think Sean, Trek on the Tube, had the same issue as well. It, I think it's really nice to remember and honor the original Star Trek show, and I love it too as well. And we're always gonna talk about it regardless, but we have to move forward. And I think that's when Lower Decks will be an amazing thing to watch, because it sets um, after Next Generation and Voyager, and sometimes after, I don't know. I have to look at the map, but I think it's between Nemesis and Picard somewhere. So it's a nice way to do things. I think it's gonna be a good show. Um, and what is Picard? Again, too much of a universe saving going there, but yeah, definitely after Nemesis, somewhere in the Picard era or even later, jump 50 years like what we did with Undiscovered Country and generations. Jump 70, 80 years in the future, and then do something new that it'll be in the future, and don't disturb the past with sport drives and transporter jumping here and there, and holographic images, and I don't know, just you're causing more problem for yourself if you do that, when just go in the future and just do your futuristic techniques in there, and you're not going to disturb continuity. But okay, that's a different discussion for a different day. All right. The Klingorks would be a completely new species. Lorca would be just a guy with PTSD, so I wouldn't be a Northshire Klingon. Yeah, I can see that. The theme of DS9 is great. Yeah, I think DS9 and Voyager, they have a really really special, unique theme song. I mean, obviously TNG is basically a rehash of the original series, which is totally fine. But having DS9 and Voyager, um, a unique show, that's still a bit glorious. Not like, and I'm not dissing a Discovery theme tune, because that's not that's not what I do. And I don't diss them, but I don't feel as optimistic when I watch the intro for Discovery. I don't feel as good about watching that Star Trek show. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Another day, we'll talk about that a bit more in depth. I probably would also make Tillian and Dorian, because I noticed shortage of alien woman in character on the crew. Yeah, I can see that. And Dennis McCarthy did the music for a fan film. Now you see, I did not know that. I'm not sure if you still hear Cloud, but I did not know that. That's a really good one. I seen Renegades, and I find it really good for a fan production. Um, okay, I'm gonna try to make Burnham more interesting and make more Burnham Tilly Lorca serve Stamets and Tyler take turns saving the day. Agree, totally agree. Yeah. All right. So a bit of a behind the scene fact of season one of Deep Space Nine, um, and again, some of them are the ones that I already mentioned. Some of the one that I did not know before. Um, I have looked up some behind the scenes facts, some really cool behind the scene facts. So, past prologue, the episode we talked about, that's the episode when Kira finds this old freedom fighter mates of hers, and she calls up to the Federation, calls up to Starfleet, and calls up with a certain admiral. Now, this admiral calls back Cisco, and I did not notice until today, when I was looking for some fun facts about season one of DS9, that Leonard Nimoy's wife, Susan Bay, she is the admiral, which is, I found it really awesome. So that admiral who appears in that episode, this episode past prologue, if you're gonna rewatch it ever anytime, and I did not know that until this one specific day, that she was basically Leonard Nimoy's wife, which I did not know. She was a photographer. I did not know that she's gonna be in Star Trek. I mean, she didn't really say too much, but she sold it. She sold it as an admiral. So Susan Bay, Leonard Nimoy's wife, was in DS9. A random thing I did not know, and I found it interesting that I wanted to really share. Also in past prologue, there was part when Odo was reading a pad with um, Ibudan's file, and there was a loads of Star Wars related jokes hidden into this file, in a sense that he had to stop in Mos Eisley, or he had so, I don't know. There's a few of them in the pad, but I found that one hilarious as well. Captive Pursuit. Another fun fact: the makeup for Tusk supposed to be, well, it was based on an alligator that Michael Westmore seen in a magazine cover, and Michael Westmore is a fantastic person. I never met him, but he's an amazing makeup artist, and he actually, because of this makeup, he actually, the show won an Emmy for outstanding makeup, um, because of this episode. So kudos to this episode for this. Um, One, again, because I did mention a few of them before, but one last behind the scene fact is the Grand Nagus, his staff, that little thing that he was walking with, the walking stick. Um, the Ferengi head in the top. I did not know that until today. Um, that was molded after Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark, which is, I find it an interesting little nod. So it's every time when I looked at that walking stick, I did not think that that is Quark. I think it was a random Ferengi, but knowing that it was molded out of Armin Shimmerman's head just made it just made the day. So I think that's it. Basically, I talked a lot about DS9 and all my concerns. I'm going to take a breath break. I'm not going to go anywhere, but I'm still going to be here. There's still five of you in here, so thank you very much for whoever you are in the file. I'm sure Robbie, you're still here, and I think Co Cloud, you're still here as well. Um, So thank you very much for sticking with me. I'm gonna check on Twitter real quick because I did have, oh, that's nice. Starfleet Boy have shared my tweet. Thank you very much, Sohail, if you're still here. And a lot of people actually shared my tweet, so I'm really really um, touched. So yeah, all right, that's two of you. That's good, awesome. So that's like almost like a hangout with me. So if anyone has any questions, please hit me on the live chat. I'm going to try to answer all of the questions. Doesn't have to be about DS9 season one. You can go and talk about some other things as well. It's totally fine. Think I'm probably gonna be here for another 22 minutes. Hey, Scottish Trekkie, how are you? Nice to see you here. So I just, if you just joined in, just to let you know, I just finished my um, DS9 season one revisit, and now I'm open for questions and discussions. So anything, feel free to hit me on the live chat. I'm gonna be here for another 11 minutes or so, so that makes it an hour and a half. Whew. But it's good, and good that I did it on Sundays because watching an awesome series. Oh yeah, no, well, yeah, of course, it's Star Trek. It has to be awesome. But yeah, back to that. I'm glad that I did it on Sundays because okay, so the way how I work is interesting because um I work on the weekends and I work on the weekdays as well, but weekends are a bit quieter. So I like working on the weekends, and I don't talk that much because I basically I wear the same headset and I talk to people, and it's just crazy during the week. I don't want to talk that much, but I love it when it's the weekend. I have little time and watch videos or work on something. All right, I'm really looking forward to Discovery. Do you have a favorite DS9 character? Okay, so DS9 character. So okay, that's another thing about me. I tend not to do favorites. I know it's silly. There's characters I like more, and there's characters I like less. But I don't do favorites. At least I try to not do favorites. Vedagwin is the one that I don't like. But from the main cast, I like all of them. They all of them had all of DS9 um, has really good characters from the very top to the from Captain Sisko to Nog, to Jake to Rom to even Morn, Brunt. I love Brunt. I love all of them. It's really hard to decide. I'm a very undecisive person in general, so it's really hard to decide a um, very good spot for everyone. And the same with all the other shows because every different one, every different show, every different crew has really good traits. So I don't do favorites, but I don't dismiss people who do favorites because I think that's fun. But I don't do them. I like all of them in the same way. All right, Grand Nagus Scepter was also Scepter. Thank you very much for letting me the word because I was struggling. Is it a walking stick or something? Um, oh yeah, that's true. That's true. It was yeah, it was in False Prophets. Robbie, you haven't seen Voyager yet. If I recall from yesterday. Um, but yeah, Voyager is definitely being used by Ferengis and Ferengis as. Uh, oh no, don't, Scottish Turkey, don't worry. I'll be gone in the next 10 minutes, so don't worry. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for um, to jumping in and saying hi. I really appreciate it. So yeah, so that is one of the things that again comes back in Voyager, I think in season one, and kind of connects you with TNG, same way how Q and Wash comes back in season one. So there's lots of similarities, especially with Voyager and DS9, because there's not much years. I think it's only 1 or 2 years, because in DS9 aired in '93 and Voyager aired in '95. So there's like literally like a 1.5, 2 years difference between the two show, and I think in terms of structure, they kind of had the same way of to. Okay, yeah. So what I was looking at here. I guess it was awesome to see you again. But Vietnam was a great series, but it gets better in season 3 and season 4. I love your channel. Oh, thank you. All right, I started watching it. I actually liked Lower Decks so far. If it's weren't an animated comedy, I probably consider it replacing for Discovery in my eyes. So far, what I heard, and again, I have not seen that. And you know what I say? Wink, wink. Um, so I have not seen the episode. Wink, wink. The episodes, the series so far, but if it as good as I heard, I would replace it with I would replace Discovery with it without any thinking. Although I do have to say that I think Discovery in season 3 that's definitely gonna go into a different area because the the show in the first season, it was, trying to be super cool and super awesome. It didn't work for me personally. In season two, it was better significantly, but I think that's mainly because of the Enterprise crew coming in, and Anson Mount was an exceptional actor to play Captain Pike. But I think in season three, because it's gonna go into so far in the future, and they're going to have the different sort of environment to deal with. I think there's definitely going to be a better show. I'm more hyped for season three than if season three is the first season of Discovery. I think it would have been much better already, because you know that something going to be totally different in the future, and you don't have to, bring all the crap that you have to deal with the first two season. And I say crap in a gentle way. Um, all right. I love Lower Decks. Yeah, I will love Lower Decks too. um, oh, thank you, Scottish Jackie, for giving the like, and everyone who liked it is so awesome. Like 15 likes. I think that's the most likes I had in my all of my videos so far. I hope you can appear on the Solar One podcast on Wednesday. I will do my best. I think. Hey, hang on a second. Aren't we talking in privately? So that would be you. Okay. That's awesome. So yeah, and I think I will be. Yes, I will. I'm meant to reach out to you as about this as well. So if anyone watches and anyone knows about a Solar One podcast, check it out on YouTube or on other media platforms, and I might be appearing on this Wednesday. Uh, One last one. Discovery season 3 trailer makes it look more optimistic and about coming together to save the future of the Federation. It really looks good. Okay, well, that's good. I have not watched the trailer. I started not watching the trailers ever since we almost started watching the Ghostbusters trailers, which I still don't know Mickey about, but which is fine because I want to get surprised as well. So, oh, come on, it's fine. um, so yeah, I have not watched the trailer for Lower Decks. I have not watched the trailer for Discovery. I made the mistakes of watching the trailers a few times for season one and season two, and the show wasn't as good as the trailer was. So I'm trying to be super, like, going into super blank into all of these shows. So yeah, I think that's the best policy for me, just to keep it cool and just watch it when it comes out and not thinking too much about it, because I think because of this, because of the too much hype and social media in general in Twitter, I understand that people are excited, and I'm happy for them, but for me it just ruined the whole experience, which I did not feel good about. So I think getting a bit of an isolation from all of these shenanigans that are going on online, and not getting too much involved in discussions of DS from Discovery season 3 and Lower Decks. I think this definitely helps me to to approach the series much better. So I'm genuinely looking forward to Discovery season 3, which I will be able to see as well from the 16th of November this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, and Strange New Worlds, yes, yes, indeed, I'm looking forward to Strange New Worlds as well. Again, I'm not gonna go into to speculations, and I'm not gonna look. I'm just gonna wait patiently till the show comes out and just watch it with a fresh eyes, not thinking about it, not joining into conversations, or like, oh, what can happen in the season 3. No one knows until the show comes out. So, and theorizing, it's fun sometimes, but I don't feel I don't it doesn't appeal to me anymore. So I just watch it, and I'll see what I think about it. Not thinking about before, like, oh, is it gonna be like this or like that? Listening to the haters, how many times Alex Kurtzman gonna get fired till Strange New Worlds comes out? I have no idea. But that will be interesting. So yes, Strange New Worlds and Discovery season 3. I think first for a long time. I'm actually looking forward to see it, and hopefully, Picard season 2 will be just as good as well as I hope Discovery season 3 will be. So, all right. So I think I'm gonna head off soon in a few minutes. So just first, lastly, really a little bit of a housekeeping. Um, if if any of you know that or follows me for a while and you know about the podcast, the Warm Blanket podcast, I have not had an episode ever since I released the one um, with Jesse Gender, which was a fantastic episode, fantastic guest and fantastic episode to do. Um, I I didn't have any episodes ever since. Recordings are going to resume this week, so a kind of a seasonal break. And season two is coming up in not this week, but probably next week. Still making some arrangements, and probably next week the podcast will resume as it is. I do have to do some tweaking here and there, and just for me, like just like how DS9 started out in the first season, and Warm Blanket started out in the first season. Now I kind of see where I want to go with the show, so I'm going to make some tweakings here and there, and going to bring hopefully better experience for the show. Um, I will have a special video this week um, on Sunday, even though I'm not officially making videos every single week, but I'll try to make something for fun. uh, I think that's definitely something that I feel that I needed to get away from the having the constant schedule and doing videos all the time, because I used to be getting quite anxious about it, and causing myself a hard time to keep up with the one video a week plus work plus life plus everything. So um, there will be every now and then videos. Of course, this live stream, I actually really enjoying that, but I really have to keep it under an hour because talking is a lot, or find a way to invite people and then have a conversation, which I think I'm probably gonna do that in the future. um, so yeah, will be have couple of things will be happening, but nothing crazy because I have a job to do 40 hours a week, plus a life to live, plus spend time with my wife and other things as well, which um I'm trying to make time for, and it's important. So so this weekend there will be a video because for my biggest surprise, the channel surpassed 2,000 followers. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a a bit of a celebratory video for the channel, which will be a bit different. It's not like your um, usual thing, but I want to put together something. I wanted to put together something anyway in the future, and I think so I will be putting something together for this week. It's gonna be a bit of an educational that probably more people gonna watch for different reasons, but that's gonna be my celebratory 2,000 followers. So thank you anyone who subscribed to the channel. I'm going to make this announcement soon as well. You can't really submit your congratulations like, oh, thank you for subscribing 2000, and then next day it's like you lost two people and you're already down to 1998. So that's not really a good one. But i think um, um, I think now it's surpassed 2004 or something, so I'm happy actually. It's really good. um, yeah, so that's it really. I think we discussed a lot and talked a lot about season one of DS9. Cannot wait to start season two. And once I finish that, I'm probably going to do another live stream talking about season two, and I'll try to compress it down a little bit more to keep it in in under an hour or around an hour, because an hour and a half talking a lot. And I'm probably going to bring a guest in if I can. I will make some arrangement to do this in a better way. We'll probably have to reach out to a few people to see how I can improve this. I really love to have some special artwork that I could design and do so. So all right, enough talking. And thank you very much again for everyone who stick with me. It's 8 o'clock in here in the UK, and I'm not sure wherever you're watching this from, but thank you very much for joining in. Hit a like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Twitter at Trekkerprise. You can also reach out to me or from my website, that's trekkerprise.com. And you can listen to the Warm Blanket episodes, the previous episodes from my website. The episodes are actually listed there. There are quite a few people who I'm probably going to make some tweets about it to for previous episodes. Feel free to listen. They are really, really good and really enjoyable episodes. At least I really had fun talking to these people, and yeah, I'm just honored that they shared their time with me, and we were able to talk um, about Star Trek and their love towards Star Trek. Um, so yeah, thank you very much again for joining in. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely new week for next week, and talk to you soon. And see you out there. Live long and prosper.